Welcome to the deep dive. Today we are looking at a pretty massive stack of technical reviews,
Yeah.
release notes,
Yeah.
and creator workflow guides for Suno.
Yeah, specifically focusing on those big V5.5 updates.
Right, the V5.5 updates and also the August 2026 Studio 2.0 release. And our mission today is really to figure out how AI music has fundamentally shifted from this sort of digital slot machine where you pull a lever and just pray for a usable 30-second jingle,
Right.
and how it's turned into a surgical, world-class production workstation.
It really is a complete paradigm shift. I mean, we're moving way past that era where AI generation was just a novelty trick, for a quick laugh on social media.
Exactly.
What we're looking at now is AI becoming this entirely invisible layer in daily content creation. So podcasters, marketers, filmmakers, they're all experiencing this total workflow integration.
Which is wild.
It is. They aren't leaving their desks to commission a composer or, go hunt for licensed stock audio anymore, because the creative workstation itself is absorbing the entire process, right, from that initial spark of an idea all the way down to the final master.
Okay, let's unpack this, because just based on these workflow guides, you're no longer just pulling a lever. It's kind of like you've been handed the director's chair of a world-class symphony.
Oh, absolutely.
Complete with a mixing board and,
Yeah.
and this roster of session musicians who literally never sleep. But I guess to actually sit in that director's chair and not just generate chaotic noise, you have to actually know how to speak the machine's language.
Yeah, you do. The machine relies entirely on constraints to understand your creative intent. I mean, if you just wave a baton wildly, the orchestra's going to sound terrible.
Right, which means step one is no longer just, ask for a song, it's define the outcome.
Exactly. Define the outcome.
There's a really specific example in our sources that perfectly captures this level of detail. So instead of typing something generic like make a tech beat.
Right, which people do all the time.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
But the recommended prompt strategy now is, I'll just read this, create an atmospheric electronic track with subtle piano, evolving synths, cinematic percussion, and a gradual build, suitable as background music for an enterprise AI documentary.
The contrast there is just vital because it really highlights a concept called semantic precision.
Semantic precision, okay.
Yeah, so saying make a tech beat, that's just a demand, right?
Yeah.
But that longer prompt, it establishes a highly specific environment. So prompt engineering in this context has shifted away from trying to find like clever hacks or secret code words.
Oh, like prompt hacking from a couple years ago.
Right, exactly. Now, you are translating the mood, the genre, the tempo, the energy, and the structure into machine-readable constraints. You're basically defining the exact dimensions of the sandbox the AI is allowed to play in.
Okay, hold on, though. Because if I'm spending 10 minutes meticulously typing out every single instrument and mood, aren't I just blowing through my credit allowance if the AI completely misinterprets what I mean by cinematic percussion?
I get that.
I mean, it feels like a massive gamble of resources to just hope the machine's definition of cinematic matches my own definition,
That is a completely natural fear, but it actually kind of misunderstands the new workflow. You really shouldn't expect perfection on the first click, no matter how detailed your prompt is.
Okay, right.
Yeah, that first output, it's just a prototype. The goal here isn't one and done. It is rapid iteration. So you generate a few variations based on those constraints, and then you actively compare them.
Okay, so you're not looking for the final product immediately.
Exactly. You're judging the hook, the arrangement, the emotional impact.
So you're exploring the creative space in minutes, just mapping out the vibe.
Yes. You are generating a menu of distinct emotional directions. You find the strongest baseline, the best prototype, and then you start the actual work of refining it.
Okay, so you've generated this great baseline track. But there's an immediate problem that comes up. If you're a content creator making, say, weekly video essays or a regular podcast, one good track isn't enough.
No, it's not.
You need consistency. You need to sound like you across dozens of episodes. And here's where it gets really interesting. With the V5.5 update, Suno introduced this whole identity layer.
The identity layer is huge.
Yeah, we're talking about the Voices feature, where you can securely upload your own voice or your own vocal hooks to be used in the tracks. And then there's My Taste, which actively maps out the specific genres and acoustic profiles you naturally gravitate toward.
And those personalization capabilities are arguably the most disruptive part of this update, because they solve that exact consistency problem you mentioned.
Right, and for the heavy hitters like the Pro and Premier users, you can actually build up to 3 custom models.
Which is incredible.
So you upload at least 6 tracks that you own, and the system creates a personalized version of the V5.5 model just for you. It's a less like creating a digital clone of a band and more like feeding the AI the sheet music and the raw studio tapes of your last 6 albums.
That's a great way to put it.
It literally learns your specific musical DNA, like the exact way you like a guitar string to bend or this highly specific delay you prefer on a snare drum.
And what's fascinating here is how this entirely alters the economics of original audio branding.
How so?
Well, think about the traditional barriers to establishing a sonic identity. It used to require hiring a composer for thousands of dollars to create a custom audio package.
Oh yeah, custom scoring is so expensive.
Exactly. And if you needed variations of that theme for different podcast segments, or say a shorter version for a social media teaser, you had to keep paying for studio time, you had to pay for revisions.
Right, every time you want a 10-second clip, it's another invoice.
Exactly. But now, marketers and podcasters have a massive competitive advantage. They can train a custom model on their core brand sound and just generate infinite cohesive variations.
Wow.
They are securing a really recognizable sonic identity in these very crowded digital markets, but without having to hire a composer for every single Instagram reel or newsletter trailer.
That's game-changing for budgets.
Okay.
Okay, so you've got your custom model, you generated a track with your exact musical DNA, but let's say there's a glaring issue, like the bass is completely muddying up the mix, or a hi-hat is just obnoxiously loud.
Which happens a lot.
Right. In the old days of AI generation, that track would just go straight in the trash. You were stuck with this flattened image of a song. But now, Suno steps firmly out of just generation and goes into full-blown DAW territory.
Digital audio workstation territory, yeah.
Right, with Suno Studio and stem separation.
And this is really the dividing line between consumer and professional workflows. You no longer have to accept the mix the AI hands you.
Yeah, and the sources detail varying degrees of this separation. There's auto split and split from mix for standard adjustments. But the Premier tier unlocks advanced split, which can target nearly 100 different specific instruments.
100? It's wild.
You can isolate a very specific synth pad or a particular rhythm guitar and just pull it entirely out of the mix or boost it up. It's kind of like baking a cake, pulling it out of the oven and deciding you actually don't want sugar in it.
I love that analogy.
With stem separation, you can basically unbake the cake, pull the sugar out, perfect the timing of the flour, and then surgically add chocolate chips exactly where they belong.
It's a fantastic way to visualize the mechanics at play here, because inside Suno Studio, professional producers are leveraging these advanced mechanics to take active control of the timeline.
Okay, tell me about the timeline controls.
Well, you have quantization, which allows you to snap any generated audio strictly to a rhythmic grid.
So making sure it's perfectly on beat.
Right. But they've also introduced warp markers. So if the AI rushes a guitar solo or drags a vocal line a bit, you can physically pin down the audio waveform on your screen and stretch that specific note so it lands perfectly on the beat.
That is so detailed. You also have alternates, right? Which lets you essentially comp different takes of a specific section.
Yes.
And remove FX, where you can actually strip away the heavy reverb or delay that the AI baked into the original stem, just so you can apply your own clean effects later in your own software.
Yeah, and we also have to highlight how it handles complex rhythm now, because historically, AI models really struggle with anything outside of a standard for pop structure.
Right, just basic boom, clap, boom, clap.
Exactly. But Suno Studio can now manage and edit non-standard time signatures. The release notes specifically mention 6/8, 7/8, and even 11/4 time.
Wait, 11/4 time. That is incredibly niche.
It is super neat.
I mean, who is writing in 11/4?
Yeah. Well, it proves the architectural strength of the model. That level of granular control means a professional musician can generate a complex polyrhythmic jazz fusion track and actually have the mathematical tools to edit it accurately right there within the browser.
Okay, so we can basically unbake the cake and mathematically manipulate an 11/4 jazz fusion time signature.
Yeah.
But all of this technical control really only matters if it impacts the final audience, right? How does this surgical precision actually change storytelling?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, music is the invisible current pulling the audience's emotions along.
Right.
It establishes context before a viewer processes a single frame of action.
There's actually a fascinating experiment outlined in our sources that perfectly illustrates this. They recommend taking just one 60-second video, let's say a simple shot of a city street or someone typing at a desk, and using Suno to create 5 distinctly different soundtracks for it.
Oh yeah, the 5-style experiment.
Right, so you generate a cinematic track, a corporate technology track, an ambient track, an electronic track, and an inspirational track.
Yeah.
And then you watch the exact same video 5 times.
And that experiment is highly revealing because it exposes how heavily we rely on audio for narrative cues.
You realize immediately that the ambient track might make that city street feel isolating, almost post-apocalyptic.
Yeah.
But then you swap in the corporate technology track, and suddenly that exact same street feels bustling, efficient, forward-looking. It completely alters the viewer's perception of the visual data.
And because you can generate these variations so quickly now, you aren't guessing what might work for an audience. A filmmaker or a marketing team can literally A/B test the emotional resonance of a campaign in a single afternoon.
Wow. Yep.
You are aligning the subconscious emotional cue perfectly with the visual message, and that drastically increases engagement for branded content.
But if you can A/B test 5 different emotional tracks in an afternoon and drastically increase your engagement, that customized audio becomes highly valuable IP.
Very valuable.
Which brings us to a pretty harsh reality for professional creators. Who actually owns that IP, and what does it cost to protect it? Let's break down these subscription tiers because they directly dictate the legal framework of your music.
We really need to talk about this because the tier structure has significant legal and workflow implications for anyone using this professionally.
So at the bottom, we have the free plan. It gives you 50 daily credits, which is roughly 10 songs a day. But the giant red flag here is that it is strictly for non-commercial use.
Strictly non-commercial.
Right. Then you step up to the Pro plan at $8 a month. That bumps you to 2,500 credits, gives you access to the V5.5 model, unlocks custom models, and crucially, it grants commercial rights.
Yes.
Finally, the Premier tier at $24 a month gives you 10,000 credits and unlocks Suno Studio and that advanced split feature we talked about.
For the average content creator who just needs daily background music or social media stings, the Pro plan is clearly designed as the sweet spot.
Yeah. But I know a lot of the scrappy, independent creators are listening to this right now and thinking, well, why wouldn't I just start on the free plan, mess around until I make a massive viral hit song, and then upgrade my account to Pro so I can monetize it on Spotify or YouTube?
Do not do that.
Oh, really?
The sources are incredibly explicit on this scenario. Upgrading to a paid tier does not retroactively grant commercial rights to the songs you created while you were on the free plan.
Wait, really? So if I create the next song of the summer on a Tuesday using a free account, and then I subscribe to the Pro plan on Wednesday morning, I still cannot legally monetize that Tuesday song.
That is exactly how it works. The commercial rights only apply to tracks generated while your account is actively subscribed to a paid tier.
Wow.
Yeah, if your intent is to ever make a single dollar from your content, starting on the Pro tier isn't just optional, it's a fundamental cost of doing business.
That is a massive trap to avoid. I'm so glad we covered that. And speaking of limitations, our release notes detail some pretty strict constraints that took effect on September 3, 2026.
Yes, the download caps.
Right. Suno implemented hard caps on downloads. The Pro plan is now limited to 20 monthly downloads, and the Premier plan is capped at 60. That seems incredibly low when you're giving users thousands of credits to generate hundreds of songs.
It does seem counterintuitive at first glance, I agree, but it serves two purposes.
Okay.
The first is pure resource management on their back end. But the second, more strategic reason is that it forces a shift in user behavior.
Who so?
Well, they are trying to move users away from mindlessly hoarding hundreds of raw generations on their hard drives and push them toward actual production. You have to use your critical judgment, utilize the in-browser studio tools, and only download the tracks you have genuinely refined and actually plan to publish.
Okay, so you really have to curate your own work now. You can't just download zip files of junk.
Exactly. And this raises an important question regarding the long-term reality of commercial rights and ownership. Because as creators curate and refine these tracks, we have to separate two concepts that are constantly conflated in AI platforms: commercial use rights and copyright protection.
What is the actual mechanical difference there? Because if I pay my $8 a month for the Pro plan, Suno's terms say I have commercial rights. Doesn't that just mean I own the copyright?
Not necessarily. Suno's terms grant you the right to use the music commercially, so you can put it in a monetized video, use it in a national ad campaign, or stream it on Spotify.
Okay, yeah.
But that is fundamentally different from guaranteed copyright protection. Copyright law varies wildly by jurisdiction, but a universal baseline is that it requires a threshold of human authorship.
Oh, human authorship.
Right. If you just type a 5-word prompt and download the raw output, You have the right to use it, but you likely cannot stop someone else from copying it because a machine did the actual authoring.
Oh, I see. So unbaking the cake actually helps you legally, too.
Yes.
If I use stem separation to isolate tracks, if I bring the song into Suno Studio, mess with the warp markers, chop up the arrangement, and then use the voices feature to add my own recorded vocals over it, I'm injecting tangible human authorship into the final product.
Precisely. The more you use the platform as a workstation rather than just a pure generator, the stronger your legal argument for copyright protection becomes.
That makes full sense.
Yeah, you are transforming machine-generated raw material through human editorial choices.
So what does this all mean for the future of the creator? I mean, we've gone from typing a basic prompt and just hoping for a usable 30-second loop to meticulously training custom models on our own musical DNA, separating 100 different stems and managing polyrhythmic time signatures.
It means the scarce skill in audio production is no longer the ability to manually play an instrument or operate a physical mixing desk.
Right.
The friction of production has essentially been removed. Original, customized audio is now accessible at the very beginning of the creative process, rather than being this expensive, stressful afterthought at the end of post-production.
Which perfectly summarizes the core journey of these V5.5 and Studio 2.0 updates. Suno has shifted the creator's role entirely. You are no longer bogged down in the manual execution of making a sound. You're operating entirely in the realm of creative direction.
Exactly.
As this raw production capability becomes universally accessible and cheaper for everyone across the board, your ultimate competitive advantage isn't your technical skill on a keyboard or your ability to route cables in a studio. It's your taste.
Yep.
Human judgment still determines what actually deserves an audience's attention.
Taste is the final frontier in a post-generative world. The AI can give you 50 perfectly generated options in an hour, but only the human knows which one will make the viewer cry, or laugh, or actually buy a product.
And that brings us right back to the director's chair. You have this perfect symphony at your fingertips, ready to play whatever you can imagine. But it leaves me with this one thought to ponder as we wrap up this deep dive.
All right, let's hear it.
If AI can perfectly quantize every single beat and generate absolutely flawless, mathematically perfect arrangements on demand in seconds, will tomorrow's audiences actually start to crave the slight mistakes, the offbeat timing, and the raw acoustic imperfections that prove human hands were actually on the instruments?
Oh man, that is the ultimate question for the future of music.
Something to chew on while you're experimenting with your next track. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and we'll catch you next time.